to everybody and their neighbor. Welcome back to Gear and Gigs. I'm your host, Jet Stone. So glad you guys could stop by today. With me, once again, is man about town and regular Gear and Gigs crew member, Stacy Venn. Stacy, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you doing, Jet?
Good doing great, thanks. We are in Texas together, but not together, so to speak. Anticipating a wonderful storm, getting rained on and waiting for the tornadoes. So, fingers crossed. Everything will be fine, but it seems like we always got a little weather tension in Texas, so that's nice.
There is that.
It's why it flashes all the pretty colors on the weather screens. So today we're going to be delving into yet another attempt to sell him on the pedal, to convince the pedal skeptic himself. Stacy, as you know, if you're a regular viewer, is not a pedal guy. But we have managed to break through a few times. We've gotten him to bite on a couple, so we're working. We're working at pedal manufacturers. We're doing your job for you. We're trying like that. So today we're not going to pull any heartstrings for a change, and we're not going to try to hit him with any modulation delay or anything fun like that. It's going to be serious. It's going to be some serious overdrive and fuzz today. Fuzz Overdrive. I like it. Somebody should have named something that by now, but if you do, send me one because I came up with the name, for gosh sake. Right. I have a witness right here. Today we're going to go into one of my very favorite pedals in the world, the Beetronics Royal Jelly. It's a very unusual pedal, as many of the Beetronics pedals are. It's unusual looking, but its functionality is very intertwined. It's extremely flexible, and in some ways it gives you presets without any digital anything, but it definitely has some intertwining of its effects settings that you need to think about as you set it up. So I'll go over that before we get into the sounds, just so you understand what's going on, because it's a little different. At its core, it's a 2-channel overdrive pedal, essentially, with a choice between overdrive or fuzz on either channel, or a blend therein. So that's kind of cool. In fact, it's kind of blending is kind of like the ethos behind this whole pedal, because you can blend the overdrive and the fuzz on the two sides, which are labeled king and queen. They're exactly the same, but it's just because we believe in equal rights, and they have the same functionality. It's just a setting, so you can have two different amounts, or set one for fuzz and one for overdrive if you want. But you can blend any amount of fuzz and overdrive. There's also an EQ that's global. It's got a low at 80 hertz that you can add or subtract 10 dB from, and then a high, which is really more of a high mid. It's 2K, which is nice, that really bright spot of the guitar that'll cut, and that's once again 10 dB plus or minus. So you've got that available. That's just a setting, not switchable. And then you also have a treble boost on the fuzz. It's a treble addition that adds a little bit of extra bite to that fuzz if you want to get more of a vintage sounding fuzz or a modern sounding fuzz, or if it just, if you're playing single coils or humbuckers or what have you. So that's the center button here. The center knob is called the honey, and that's the amount of overdrive. And then on the king side and queen side, what these knobs are here are the blends between overdrive and fuzz. So all the way to the right would be fuzz, all the way to the left would be overdrive. It also has a volume control for the entire unit right here. So that's a master volume for the system. And then there's this. This is a dry blend. It's a parallel processing circuit that basically, if you roll it all the way up, is full dry, and all the way down is full wet. So all the way down would be like a traditional pedal, and all the way up is essentially no pedal at all. And the nice thing about that is you can blend in not only your overdrive and fuzz ratio, but also your clean and affected ratio. So you can really get some subtleties. You can get some crazy stuff, but you can get some subtleties that really wouldn't be possible any other way. So in that way, it's pretty sophisticated, but I think in use, unless you're using it as a studio tool, if you're taking it out live, you're probably going to find two settings that you use all the time. And then that center treble boost would be nice, depending on what guitar you're playing or what the room is doing or what have you, or maybe even as a lead thing to cut you through. So I think that's pretty cool. Now this switch here is the one that's going to switch between our two sides, the king and the queen. As I said, they're identical in function, so we'll probably just end up listening to one for the most part until we get into a comparison. This switch here just turns the unit off, and then this light up top, as you can see, when you kick in the brighter circuit, goes to a red from a blue. It's called the buzz button, I believe is what that is the buzz. I think you see a theme here with Beetronics. Yeah.
Could be.
It's subtle. You have to look closely, but this one, I should point out, is unusual compared to a stock model. This one is a custom shop version, so it's got the fancy paint job. And I've also added a cover. Usually this is just another switch like these guys here, but I've added a cover here just so I can remember that that's a different switch. That's my buzz switch. That's just kind of a way for me to remember it. It's just a little smoke cover you can buy for a few dollars. Now, you'll also notice, if you're a particularly astute Beetronics guy, that I've actually added some covers on my little jeweled lights here. I've added little tiny faceted covers because the lights themselves, the original lights, as you can probably see, even from the green one, are really, really bright. And, I'm one of those people that's just bothered by really bright lights, LEDs sticking me right in the eye. I have the same problem if somebody comes up in front of me with a brand new car. Sometimes the LEDs are just so bright. It's like, oh. So that's just my own thing. I've added those. They're a couple bucks. I'll splash up the company that those come from. And you can, if you like, order those. They come in packages of 5, small, big, self-adhesive. They're really great. They're nice if you have that problem. I've got them on quite a few pedals and amps, and they've worked out really well. Plus, I think that makes it kind of look classy, but that's just me. Not that this pedal has any trouble looking classy, to be honest. It's got that nice old, almost 1940 kind of radio look. Feels very, very militarily built. I mean, it's all metal. It's super heavy. It's not a lightweight pedal. All the knobs feel really solid. All the pots feel really solid. Even as you can see, in this case, the blue anodized nuts around these things are huge. They're not just your standard ones. They're really, really big. So they've spent a lot of money on the presentation, which is nice because, you're going to be staring at it a lot. And it honestly makes me want to use it more than a Distortion Plus right out of the gate. If you're going to pick something out of the cabinet to put on your board, it's like, oh, ooh, but look, this one's got all the... So something to think about. All right, so for our signal today, I'm going to be going through a 2-Rock Studio Pro 35 head that we've used previously. So here it is, and here's the settings. Excuse me. And we're going to be going through a 2-Rock cabinet with a WGS12 as standard, and we're going to be micing it up with a vintage tube mic. We're going to be running over to our Focusrite liquid channel preamp that's emulating a Neve desk, going through our Digico S31 for our A to Ds, and then straight into Zoom. So we're not pre-recording this into a DAW. You're hearing it just as we are. And that's it. We're going to be using today, going outside the regular lines and using an Explorer. This is a 2017, I think it's, what is it called? A T model, I think, the traditional. It's just a traditional model, with the only modification being some chrome covers on the pickups, because originally it was awful bright, and I just wanted to tone it down just a little bit. But other than that, it's pretty stock. I'll establish a bass tone, kind of give us our clean sounds. I'll run through it, and then from there we can start running through the pedal. Well, by the way, when you see me reach over here, I'm turning off a microphone that's up here so we don't pick up the room sound. How Steely Dan of me.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if it is. Just sound. All right, so that's our bass tones. Now I'm going to start out with just the overdrive. We're going to listen to the overdrive first before we get into the fuzz. And I'm going to set it on full wet, so it's more like a traditional overdrive pedal. Once again, just as a starting point, EQs will be flat. And the buzz, well, that only works on the fuzz function, so that won't have any relevance right now. initial impressions.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a non-committal. You
Okay.
know?
I'm not looking for a verdict. I'm just looking for impressions.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it sounds.
It's
It doesn't sound. It doesn't. It sounds vintage. It doesn't sound overly bright. It sounds rich. It sounds tubey, analogy, ampy. Doesn't sound like it's laying on top of the sound too much. Well, and this is not a particularly bright guitar anymore. So let me dial up a little bit of zip on it and let's see where we can go.
all right.
So that's me messing with the dry, that's the dry control. I'm blended in some of the dry back.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that helped it out quite a bit. It seems like. Yeah. Yeah, I think it gives it some personality.
And I also have the, I've got a little bit of the bottom end rolled off and I've got the treble, well, the 2K up quite a bit. Now there I've got the dry at about, I'd guess maybe 25% down from all wet. We got the 2K up almost all the way, bass down about 5 dB. And I've got the overdrive, the hunting, I've got that all the way up right now.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to switch sides just so I can leave that where it is. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to the king side and let's set that up for all fuzz. So let's just listen to the fuzz circuit. Now in this case, there's no gain control for the fuzz. So there's
Is there blend control?
there's a blend with the fuzz and the overdrive.
Oh, okay.
So if I were to turn the honey all the way down, the overdrive all the way down, then this blend control over here would actually be just the amount of fuzz. So why don't I do that so we can hear the fuzz independently, and then I'll bring bring them back together. So I'm turning the overdrive all the way down. I've got this all the way on full fuzz, and I'll put the dry control because that's another blend. I'm going to take the dry wet control and put it on full wet. So we'll start on full wet, and I'll take the EQ back to flat. So I'm so glad I left everything so we could go back. It's fine. All right, so here's our fuzz. Already, I'll say that's way less fuzzy than a lot of fuzzes.
Yeah.
Almost a nice, just rounded distortion. I'm going to do that again, but this time I'll kick in the buzz. I'll kick in the buzz circuit. Once again, no adjustment for the buzz. It's either on or off. I don't know too many fuzz circuits that can handle that complex a chord without the general.
Yeah, without that warbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it does add some hiss, obviously, as we can hear. Let me dial back the fuzz using the blend control on the channel itself. Doesn't seem to actually change the amount of fuzz, the ratio at all. It seems like it's just a volume. So as it's doing the blend between that and an overdrive, it's more of a volume. Let's use the dry control then, the dry wet control, and see if we can dial in how much fuzz we have. It's really smooth. It's very smooth. Adding just a touch of the original signal gets interesting, although it blends so oddly with the fuzz. But the nice thing is we can actually make that a little bit of overdriven guitar to blend in with it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. The amp is set so clean, and then the fuzz, when you blend that absolute clean with the fuzz, it's kind of like, well, there's a little bit of two different worlds. I wonder if you were using either an overdriven amp, or if you use the overdrive side of this pedal.
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay.
And
All right.
what we're going to end up doing is, of course, blending three things: an overdrive, a fuzz, and the clean if we want. So we can have as much of each of those. So that'll be interesting. Okay, so I'll start on, where to start? I'll start fully wet. And I think I'll dial in the fuzz rather than the overdrive. So I'll put it on the full overdrive here, get our overdrive sound, but not go too far, assuming that the fuzz is actually going to be the most overdriven thing in the signal. Okay, I'll use that for the basic overdriven sound, and I'll blend in fuzz.
Okay.
It's such a complex sound now. It's like there's so many, you don't know what to listen to exactly. And I still haven't dialed in the dry. So I'm going to take the overdrive up a notch to put that in the middle of things, and then bring in the dry just a little bit. it's almost that sparkle drive thing. If I heard that on recording, other than the fact that it's timed exactly the same, I'd think that's several
Yeah,
layers of
overdubs.
sound.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
I get the idea that with a band, with a bass and drum situation going on in that, this would, like a good stew, would kind of come together more and sound less separate and kind of like, oh yeah, there's an ensemble sound. But individually, to me, I need a little less of the fuzz, just a touch maybe to give it a little extra sustainy thing. And then I'm going to bring the dry down, and I like the overdrive kind of high. Let's try that. I like the
Yeah, pretty
clarity
cool.
of being able to play the chords and hearing all the notes, because so many times you don't hear that with distortion, or it diminishes. And here it didn't start
Yeah, I
to
think
diminish.
that's been one of the things that I really, maybe why, part of the reason I'm just really not a pedal guy is because usually the pedal just overwhelms the whole guitar sound and becomes the thing. I really like this, that you can blend some natural guitar back in, or, I don't usually play through a clean amp, but
Right.
it'd be nice to be able to blend that clean, or that even the amp with its own, overdrive, gain settings. It'd be nice to pull that back into the sound. That's been the thing that I really have been a skeptic about pedals for. You put on the overdrive, a lot of times it's like, that's what you
Right.
get.
Right.
And
Exactly. You lose the guitar. Yeah.
right. So, yeah, pretty cool.
The
That
when I use it on my pedal board, and it's a staple on my regular pedal board, I have another boost going into it to just give me that crunch on that going in. So at its driest,
right.
it still has some of that in the background, and it does blend better because I still run the clean amp. In fact, I pretty much run the same setting, but a little boost on the front end does essentially the same thing, as it keeps that there, and it actually allows you more flexibility with this on how you do it. And we haven't really gone into how it works with the volume control on the guitar. So let me just do that real quick, because I know that's a thing for you too. So let me just see how that works for you.
Okay.
It actually works pretty well. I mean, the volume goes
reacts.
down, but it reacts predictably and nicely and kind of what you want. Yeah, I'm
Yeah. Well, I think the overdrive side is really, pretty darn spectacular. But the fuzz side. I mean, it's the fact that you can kind of dial it back is pretty helpful.
You know what we haven't tried is the let's put on our Viking hats. We haven't tried the Danish Pete trick, right? We got to roll our tone down and try the fuzz.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Let's try that.
Let's channel our internal Viking.
Yes, I'm going to go to the neck pickup first because it seems like that's what he enjoys most. And I'll go 100% fuzz.
Okay.
Well, I like that a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great trick.
It's such a great trick. Thank you, Pete. We love you so much. Thank you for that. Yeah, the tone down with a fuzz seems to actually work really well. Now with the overdrive, it's not going to do the same thing. Of course, it'll just sound dull. But with a fuzz, it like gets rid of all the extra stuff the fuzz is trying to deal with and allows it to concentrate on the fundamental of your tone. I'm guessing is what it really does, and suddenly gets that. What does it sound like? Like an oboe or something, right? Kind of or what?
Yeah.
Flute, maybe a pie, but it's definitely more of a wind instrument or something when you play it like that. It's synthesizer-y almost.
Yeah. It's it changes the fuzz to something manageable and something more pleasant because usually fuzzes are kind of like harsh.
They are, yeah.
So.
And by the way, the reverb we're getting today is from the Digico board. I forgot to mention that. I'm going to throw some delay on the Digico board just for fun and play with that fuzz for just another second here. So let me do that real quick. Oh yeah, so much more fun. So much more fun. Now it's not a guitar anymore. It's this whole other thing. Yeah.
Right.
But at least it has that in there. At least the capability for that vintagey fuzz thing is there. Sometimes that delay thing can take it and elevate it to a non-guitar sound, kind of a synthy sort of a thing, or even a pad in the background or that sort of stuff. So that's always fun. Nice that this can produce the vintage fuzz thing. I think that's really cool. And even if you just used it for two different levels of overdrive, or one with a touch of fuzz, that's very cool. So overall, I'm real happy with it. I think it's useful, and as I said, a little boost in front of it or a touch of overdrive in front of it can even open this thing up more. And your final thoughts?
Well, definitely the overdrive. I'm thumbs up because of the blend and the idea of putting a boost pedal in front of it, or using my kind of normal amount of gain on an amp to get that amp sound, and the blend is pretty darn cool. So I'm absolute thumbs up on the overdrive side. I don't know if I'd ever use the fuzz side. Sorry.
That's okay. Maybe it's a specialty thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's definite inroads. That's awesome.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, the Beetronics Royal Jelly. So glad you guys could check it out with us. Hope you enjoyed that.
you.
Learned something. Stace, thanks for joining me once again.
All right. Well,
And
thank you, Jet.
for Stace, I'm Jet Stone. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
So thanks for joining us, everybody, for another episode of Gear and Gigs. Just a reminder, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel so we can keep you informed about upcoming events. And, of course, check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And this is Jet Stone saying, have a good one.